Hi, Marty Braden here. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad curiosity for all religion began as a cult brought you here. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, let me quickly explain what my channel is about. I think it will help you to better understand my videos. I promise I'll do my best to make it worth your time. Keep in mind that I'm not a professional YouTuber, and that's why you don't see any high fancy technical production kind of things going on with my videos. But I'm confident you'll find the information pretty informative and probably quite interesting. The topics for my videos, just like this one, all came from my book I wrote titled An Atheist Delusion. It's my Latter-day Saint perspective on atheist and evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins' anti-theist and anti-Christ book that he titled The God Delusion. Just after I retired back in 2015, I had an experience that required that I read The God Delusion, and Dawkins, as you probably know, goes around the world trying to get converts to atheism. Anyway, while reading his book, I found myself taking a lot of notes, and before I knew it, I had written out an entire manuscript which I decided to go ahead and publish as a book. After publishing An Atheist Delusion, I decided to set this YouTube channel up and record short videos reviewing every single anti-God argument Dawkins puts forth in his book. In fact, Richard said his purpose for writing The God Delusion was to make atheists out of all of us. Good luck, Richard. Anyway, this particular video you're watching now is part 95 in my series of videos that I've posted so far. With that said, let's go ahead and begin at the next and last subtitle for chapter 4. It's called Cargo Cults. This subtitle's chief point comes from Richard's belief that Christianity and all the ancient religions that have spread worldwide presumably all began as local cults. Most of them died away, but the ones that have survived are the ones that we encounter today, which Richard says has been honed by further evolution, memetic selection, in other words, into the sophisticated system, or rather diverging sets of descendant systems that dominate large parts of the world today. End quote. Again, we're back to Richard's defining the apostasy we see throughout the world's history. This apostasy is still in full swing today, or one could say religion is still in the process of evolution, as Richard would describe it. Richard goes on to describe the extreme rapidity with which a new religious cult could get started. Supposedly, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one such cult. And before I continue, now you gotta understand something. Richard does not believe there's a God, so he has to believe that religion is man-made, and therefore that's the word cult. It's man-made. A cult, he says, can spring up almost overnight and then become incorporated into a culture, like a cancer, where it then plays a dominant role. For example, the cargo culture of Pacific Melanesia of New Guinea. The entire history of some of these cults, from initiation to expiry, he says, is wrapped up within living memory. Unlike the cult of Jesus, the origins of which are not reliably attested, we can see the whole course of events laid out before our eyes. End quote. So I'm asking myself here, is Richard saying that because the story of Jesus is more than 2,000 years old, you can't trust it? Really, Richard? Come on. Is this how you see all of history? Richard's definition of a cult is influenced by his belief that God, like I said, does not exist. Therefore, any and all religions, as well as everything connected with it, are man-made. And as such, all religions are simply cults, including what Richard calls the cult of Jesus and Christianity. The religion Jesus established during his earthly ministry some 2,000 years ago in the meridian of time, Richard says, is simply a manifestation of man-made ideas that man being Jesus and not God, because there is no God. The pattern for the cargo cults and all other cults, Richard says, is that in every case the islanders were bowled over by the wondrous possessions, the cargo, of the white immigrants that came to their islands. The islanders noticed that the white people who enjoyed these wonders never made them themselves. When these articles needed repair, they were sent away, and new ones kept arriving as cargo in great ships. Evidently, then, the cargo must be of supernatural origin. End quote. What a reach, Richard. Listen to Richard's creativity when he says, the independent flowering of so many independent but similar cults suggests some unifying features of human psychology in general. I say, duh, Richard. I couldn't have said it any better than how you just described it. It is apostasy, Richard. Apostasy is the unifying feature in mankind's psychology. Thank you very much. The world's history is a constant repeating of mankind's dwindling in their faith in God. This dwindling is the unifying feature of mind called apostasy. It's the fruit of the natural man's weakness for and propensity towards being rebellious against God and his commandments, due to the flesh and so forth, which result in man's taking his own path and becoming a law unto himself. Richard finishes this chapter, chapter 4, with a short history of the legend of John Frum, the mythic god of the islanders' cult religion that sprang from it. And then he says, quote, "It has been honed by further evolution, memetic selection, into the sophisticated system that dominates large parts of the world today. And that is all I want to say about the, quote, roots of religion itself," end quote. Well, that's the end of chapter that we're just finishing here, but I'm going to go ahead and jump. I wrote down a thought that I wanted to share with you as we're winding down, finishing this, the roots of religion. I can't help myself. I have to take a moment before we go on to review chapter 6. And I want to remind you of the fact that this entire chapter, whose title was The Roots of Religion, along with each of its 7 subtitles that I've reviewed, I have reviewed each and every one of them. Never once did Richard present a scientific discovery with its published data that suggests that religion had its roots in evolution's natural selection. Every argument put forth by Richard was simply his own opinion, stuffed with what he thinks are plausible concepts or theories from which religion could have sprung. Richard, knowing that the origin of life comes down to the biology of the functioning of cells, focused his guess on such things as features and means, and how they are directed by the directive force he calls natural selection. All the rest was simply him bloviating about religion being a glitch, a misfiring, a flatulating wet brain, he giving no studies and data to back all of this up. I, on the other hand, have put forth a variety of scientific theories about light, information, coding, what the mind is and what consciousness is, where life comes from, it being the spirit personage of each man and woman entering into their physical body and being housed within it until that body can no longer function through old age or disease or a sudden death or accident or otherwise, so that the spirit personage was forced to leave its body. Yes, these are philosophical answers to the big questions of life, but they are based on the physical, natural world, for as I have said in previous videos, spirit persons are made up of a more pure matter called intelligences, and so it's still of the natural world. That's why I'm a naturalist in that sense. But our technology today has not yet reached the point in its development where it can reveal the spirit matter particles that I'm describing, like the electromagnetic telescope reveals atoms particles and its parts, etc. You can't see them except through this powerful microscope, shows the effects of what's going on, and then it draws that picture. So we're left once again asking ourselves, which of these two theories is the most plausible? Which one moves our belief cursor towards the marker that says God exists, and which one moves it towards the marker God does not exist? The theist view, or the view as the Latter-day Saint that I've given, or Richard's view that God does not exist. Either there is no God, and therefore religion is a manifested feature coming out of the mind of the earliest of men and women and continuing to evolve in concept over the millennia, or it is the fruit of God, revealing his plan of happiness to his children through his chosen prophets over the centuries through the gift of the Holy Ghost, called revelation, the spirit of revelation. Either it's man-made or it's God-made. The choice, the decision as to which of these two views makes more sense to you, does in fact remain with you. And that's because neither side has the scientific data that proves and therefore falsifies the other side's view. If you've been writing down all of the well-informed reference-leg evidence that I have been given to you over these 5 chapters, I'm confident that any of the new ones that I shared throughout my review of this last chapter have added greatly to your support table. Each of these reference legs of evidence added to all of those that I have shared thus far as I've reviewed the first 5 chapters of my book they all should have moved your belief cursor a considerable distance along the percentage of probability spectrum in the direction of the God exists marker and further away from the God does not exist marker. Having said that, please take a moment and share a comment or two. Ask any questions that you have. I want both sides. Can remain kindly and don't be contentional, but I'll get to it. I'll answer as best I can, and I will do all that I can to answer them in a timely manner. But until then, this is the end of this video, and so until then, I want to wish you all continued success. Goodbye.